Hi guys, and welcome to the Fully Charged Showroom. We are here with the new Benno Bikes. Now, I first discovered Benno about 3 years ago at Eurobike, which is the biggest bike show in the world, which is now like predominantly electric, which is really cool. And I met this crazy guy, Benno, who's like this mad inventor, but actually he's not mad, he's just from the future. And he basically was showing me his concept about utility, which was just like really inspiring. And he gave me his card and I said I'd give him a call, but Eurobike's been cancelled for the last couple of years. I actually lost his card, but we've arranged to have a Zoom with him today, so we're going to see if he remembers me and just talk through, you know, his brand and why we love it and what it's all about. So let's jump straight into that Zoom call and then we'll take it from there.
Hello, and good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm going to try to put my earplugs in. Maybe it's better. Look at you. What a backdrop.
That's it.
I wish I had a backdrop like you.
There you go. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Berlin.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Berlin, actually. And that's where you were born.
I was born in Munich, but I was raised in Berlin. Yeah.
Do you recognize me?
I recognize you from the show. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good,
we
good,
did talk.
Good. Yeah, when you had the helicopter on the stand, and I was completely flabbergasted by what the set design was, and came over and introduced myself and told you that I'm going to retail your bikes and make them famous in the UK.
Thanks for doing it.
That's cool, man. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and we've now got the business in really good shape, and we're doing really well here in London. Obviously, the pandemic has massively accelerated our growth. It's been a very stressful time. I might have aged maybe 10 years in 2 years. You still look, you've de-aged almost. Is life quite chilled for you these days? Or?
No. It was hard. It was a hard 2 years, my friend.
Yeah.
Hardly and a half. Yeah. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah, it's been a bit uncertain, only over the last 2 months, but still, you know, very good growth. But we've massively scaled up as a business now. We've got 10,000 square foot in central London of space now and with traditional cargo bikes, you really need that extra space. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the beauties of Benno, is we can fit 3 Benno bikes in the same space as we can fit, an Urban Arrow, a big typical cargo bike, which is such a great thing and has so many positive connotations in so many areas. So
it's the same for our customers. They can put a lot less space for their bikes.
I was doing a little bit of research last night, just kind of refreshing myself about your brand, and what I came up with, I wrote it down. So the UK is the home of Land Rover, and it's like the British dream to own a Land Rover Defender and have it your whole life and basically do all of your missions with it and be like a warrior and a hero in your little vehicle, being as eco as you can and kind of adapting it to your life, and it just lasts the whole entire time and you can just do everything with it. And it's one vehicle, multi-purpose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in modern day life, actually, the British dream is dated, because in an urban environment, 4 wheels just doesn't really work. It's extremely expensive to park, insure. It's actually just been priced out, and it's no longer the actual British dream. So transitioning into the Benno, being able to have a compact, multi-purpose e-bike that can be adapted through OEM design, and then you can kind of take off the rack and change it when you have a second child or whatever it may be. That's what's attractive about this. It's extremely cost efficient, to do it that way. It's obviously massive benefits for the city, for the air, for the individual, for their mental health, for their physical health. So yeah, that's kind of where I got to, is like the kind of overall view on it. And I just wanted to know what you thought about that and what comments you had, really.
I think it's perfect. I think you couldn't have said a better, more flattering thing that would fit better. I always like to say, I always like to use the Land Rover analogy. From exact. I mean, I should have. I wish I had your words, written down because they were so perfect.
They're here.
Perfect. Because there is so much inspiration from that in there, from a Range Rover or Land Rover, from the Defender, all the way into the Range Rover in a more luxury way, more modern way, and then I think there's a lot of that in it. And I always was wondering a little bit in England, if it, in the UK, if it was kind of resonating that way, And I think to me, when I work on the Boost particularly, I look at that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm of course I'm a big Defender fan, and I'm just looking at one right now in Germany. The old Fire engine. Well, I always wanted one. Everybody wants one.
The new model though, or the old classic.
It's an old one from the 80s, but not like super old, but old enough. It's just somebody ran it by me, and I've been looking for one. But in the US, you can't get a lot of old Defenders. It's very hard. California, they're not hard to get legal and everything. So
yeah,
it's a dream that has to stay in Europe or outside of California.
Yeah.
But I think that the Boost just works just like that, in the same way, just like you said. It's so adaptable. But it's so chic in the same way. It's practical. It can be adaptable through your life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I call always utility. It's like it's the good looks, the good ride, and the cargo, but also in a way your kids are at an age now, where they go through the phase where you take them on the back of the bike, and and you have one baby seat maybe and one not, and then two off, and then but then at one point your kids are not going to be they're going to be on their own bikes, and what is so interesting about the Boost, that's so different to all the bucket bikes and everything, is it will convert to a regular bike.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a beautiful bike. You're not going to have a big bucket. You're not going to have a bike that has a rear rack welded on that's specific for kids. You know what I mean? As much as I think they are great, throughout that time, but as having been through with my own daughter, through the phase, I realized that there's one day that kids are off, and it's hard to think about when you're a dad, but that means kids are off means, okay, now you want your bike back. So I'm with you on that.
So if someone did want to change it, but the thing is you kind of get attached to it and you develop a relationship with that bike that is really special, and it's nice to be able to keep it and adapt it. And with the RemiDemi, I mean, who exactly is the idyllic kind of user? And when you're designing these new accessories for it, who have you got in mind?
The accessories are similar. We are trying to work on a passenger package, maybe a single person one. It's similar. We're trying to get some panniers on there, in a good way. We have the rack time, we have the baby seats that fit really well, but in the car analogy, and this is why it's so interesting sitting here with you talking about Land Rover, of course, the Remy is the Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
Another British icon in that same kind of way, and so, and then maybe in 2023, I think we're coming out with a longer version, so that'll be the Clubman,
Yeah. Brilliant.
So sometimes I do exactly what you do. I kind of try to find these things that kind of keep me on track, Of course, it's not a car, you know what I mean? But I always look at this because it's funny, and I've been laughing about it internally, not having never shared, with anybody, that I feel, that's really Land Rover to me, and well, that's really Mini Cooper to me in a way, And so I'm having fun because those are, of course, two beautiful, iconic kind of brands, and I was always wondering, and I've been kind of watching a little bit on social media, and you guys have been doing a great job, just been watching a little bit how people respond, and I think there is a bit of a of an understanding, you know, in the UK for the Remi, maybe more than in other places, you know, but unspokenly for some reason that I always believe, because it has a kind of fun, witty, but in a way sporty, and that kind of, you know, DNA, you know, and that kind of, and they both have, you know, they're both kind of gentlemen bikes in the same way, just like, you know, in a weird way. I can't.
Sophisticated and yeah, I mean, I've actually spent a bit of time on the RemiDemi. I actually missed that. I didn't quite see that mini analogy, and now I've seen it. I'm really.
I was just looking behind you, so I'm like, look, here they are. You know, like there's the.
It's spot on. I love it.
There's the
really
mini.
Made me excited.
It's, you know, I mean I think what's a little, you know, what's interesting is what's difficult about our concept is, you know, in utility is what, you know, what we call the good looks, you know, and the good looks is, it's interesting. I think where I like to do more education, or where just sit back and wait for people to figure it out, maybe, you know, because it is slowly happening, is something like a Turn, or like a, you know, like a Riese Miller Load, or, you know, these kind of bikes, they very much explain themselves.
Yeah.
Like you put them out there and you can see it's a purpose bike. You can see, oh, the Turn is made for that.
Yeah.
The Load is made for that, you know, and all of these bikes are they're very obvious.
Purpose
They're different,
yeah.
Right? They're different. They kind of explain themselves. Look, I can carry a big box. Look, I can do this. Look, this is what I'm made for.
This. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm made for that, you know. Yeah. But I think that's the beautiful thing about a Land Rover in a way. It kind of, despite the fact of it can be so many things, that you can get your kids to school in it, but yet so you can go around the world in it, you know. So it's like
you can do anything, and you get it inspires creativity and allows you to suddenly think, oh bloody hell, I can do this, or I can start a new hobby, or I can like that's one of the things with e-bike is like when like a typical mum is dropping off one kid to nursery and then sitting in traffic for half an hour on a bad day to go to the school to pick up the other kid. And meanwhile, I've gone on my e-cargo bike, I've done a tennis lesson, I've done a swimming class, and I've kind of like, but you don't really realize how much your life will improve until you're actually living in that scenario. Yeah, and I think that's, you know, like that's kind of what's exciting about the Benno is where will it take you? You know, what will you be doing in a year's time?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at our social media posts, and this is a little bit different, I think, when I look at, you know, for instance, you know, and I think Turn has done a phenomenal job, you know, with what they do. But when you look at, just genuinely look at their posts, I see a lot of family posts. I see a lot of city. I see a lot of really people use the bike for exactly what a design is to do, you know. And when I look at the booths, I always find it somewhere in the wilderness. They're kids, you know, there's passengers, there's adventure, but it's always like, it almost seems like they can never go just to school or to swimming lesson. They will actually go off and go, oh my God, look, we ended up on a lake. And that's what is interesting about the booths. Just genuinely, like I said, I sit back and I watch. There's an intention, there's a design, there's a bit of Land Rover in there. But what are people going to do with it? You know, and that's why we're so successful in Norway with the studded tires. You know, it just allows people to, you know, pull their kids on sleds and everything. And so the creativity that comes with that bike, you know, it's just, and the imagination, you know, and that's what I love. It's like, well, what are you going to do? This is what I designed the bike to do, but what are you going to do with it? You know, and sitting back and watching people to come up with things that I couldn't have imagined, and then helping them to do it was maybe new accessories, or, you know, just giving them more possibilities, unlocking these layers of usage, you know, is for me is just the most fun, you know, where it's not like, oh, I designed it for this. It's like, well, you tell me what you want to do with it, you know.
So is that one of the questions I wanted to ask you was why 24? And is that one of the reasons why is because that is right in the middle that of say 20 and 27.5, that it can just do anything? What was your real inspiration behind doing?
Well, I really think, you know, 20 is for me, when I was working on it, I was thinking, well, 20 is a little too small for me, and 26 is too big. And I wanted, I did want to keep my load low, my center of gravity very low. So I want to go as low as possible. Also want to have a pretty sturdy wheel,
Yeah.
And so, sometimes with a 20-inch wheel, maybe the spokes are harder, more stress. There's more stress on the spokes because they're shorter. And, even so, maybe the wheel seems more sturdy. At the end, it's not really. So I found like 24-inch a good sweet spot also from the wheel size, the outer, a 24-inch by 2.6 is almost a 25 and a half. So sometimes I think I should call it a 25 and a half, or 25 and a half.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not really a 24 because the wheels are wider. So when they're wider, they're also higher. So therefore the effective outer boost is a 25 and a half. But the load is still a few inches lower, and it gives you a better, more stable ride,
the lower center of gravity,
And also, of course, it allows you to make the wheelbase longer without making the bike too long. The magic on all of these, on these kind of more compact cargo bikes is always, you want long wheelbase, you want, because that gives you maximum stability, but then you want, and you don't want the bike to be so long. So,
compromise rigidity, you don't want that.
You don't want that, but also the length, the length of a bike is a lot determined by the, from the axle to the outer of the wheel, and so you have basically, if you have a bigger wheel, you have a longer bike, times two, right? And if you have a smaller one, you can have a longer wheelbase, but you have a much shorter bike. But I always think it's interesting because the boost is only, 50 millimeters or 5 centimeters longer than a regular bike. And actually, if I'll bet you anything, if I'll pull out a bunch of 27.5-inch mountain bikes full suspension, that will be longer than the boost. So we have actually achieved a super compact bike that has a super low center of gravity, right? Super stable, and with a long wheelbase but a short bike. And for me, it's just a sweet spot. That's how I look at it. And even on the Remis, we use a 20-inch rim, but because the tires are bigger, you also end up with a much bigger effective outer. A smoother wheel and everything. So I kind of think that's also kind of important. And with e-bikes, the width of a tire, it's okay. It's like the width or the weight and these kind of things, they don't really, sure, they add a little bit of weight in a way, but they also add stability and they add braking capability. When you're on a bike and you have 200 kilograms,
more Kevlar as well in the tire, and
you got to hit the brakes. You want some rubber on the ground. You don't want to have a skinny wheel and you want a good riding position that's semi-upright. You want a lot of rubber on the ground. You want a lot of control because you are with your 2 kids on the back, and it's more difficult to ride.
And to be seen. I mean, we say wind resistance and road resistance are a thing of the past with an e-bike, and be seen, don't be hunched over like this, be seen and see,
exactly.
Look over the cars, see what's happening in the, especially in an urban environment. But yeah, there's just like endless pluses. I mean, I could write 50 down right now for an e-bike. It's just like oozing in my head on a daily basis.
Because it's a different vehicle. And I think this is also something that we are really passionate about. It's like, to find the next generation of e-bikes, not really, or redefining the e-bike. And sometimes I think, I look at our bikes and I think they are not special. They are not cargo bikes. They are just how e-bikes should be. I never think that we make a niche product. I never think that we make a cargo bike. I never think that. It's just like, well, if I look at an e-bike and I have the capability of getting assistance with a motor that can take all the weight away, can take all the weight of the load away, and can take me uphill and all these kind of things, then I want a bike that rides really good, that looks good, and it can do a lot of things, and most of the time you don't need all the cargo capability. So let's make it a cool bike.
What are the other future plans for your mission, your company?
Well, I think our big mission is, again, it comes down to what I call utility, or the e-bike of the future, right? So what I want to do, I want to maximize the capability of e-bikes. When somebody buys it, that they get the maximum use out of it. I want to really kind of get away from the thought of bicycles and really get into two-wheeled electrical vehicles. That are bikes in their own way. I really want to cut off that bicycle tie at one point and be in an e-bike space that's dedicated to that. Yeah. And what that means is, like, you're going to have to kind of think a little different about, speeds and loads and capabilities and components. And, you have to be able to say, I'm not going to do a 27.5, even so everybody's doing it. I'm going to do a 25.5, or I'm going to do, whatever is right, for our category. And like I said, for us, it's been a little challenging because our bikes don't look so purpose driven, so when you walk in a bike shop, you go, well, they don't ooze, I'm a cargo bike, you know what I mean? And so we have to work a little harder on the marketing and everything to make people understand it. It is the Land Rover, but without all the racks. It's but for the future, I just want to keep on going and really provide great solutions for people to ride, from A to B, and accommodate their needs, as their needs are changing.
I like that. It's like it's a specialist, non-niche product.
Yes.
It's
to me, I mean, I've always hated the word niche, but fine, in a way, for people, so, oh, it's a niche. I'm like, well, no, you always feel like, no, you are in a niche, you make like a, you make like a Dutch bike with a motor. I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I make a bicycle that's so capable, above and beyond. That could, if people would, if we can communicate it properly, it's like, well, of course I'm going to get that bike because it can do it all. It's that what you want. And of course we have different models, as the Boost or the, or the Remi, and, coming out with a new one by the end of next year, what we call it the 46er. We're doing things like that also kind of make all sense, and they kind of interesting concepts. But like I said, sometimes they might they're always a little bit different negotiated. Some bikes are, I always say, utility is like three people negotiating on a table. You have the looks, and you have the ride, and you have the cargo, and all sitting on the table, and they always negotiate. And every bike, these three guys get on the table and say, well, this one, I really want to get a better looking bike. And then cargo says, well, but we got to be able to carry that, and the next guy was like, well, but it's got to ride good, and so they're having this conversation, in your country over a Guinness beer in a bar, really just negotiating and haggling until, okay, I'll give you that. Okay, I get to be a little more cargo over here, but therefore I get a little, more looks over here, you know what I mean? So each of these bikes is kind of unique, and I think they do have a personality. And so beyond the utility and the cargo and everything, I think what the layer that makes us interesting or unique is, there is a little bit of my old history with Electra, a little bit of a fun, of a style, of a, personality, where I do believe your bike is important to also to talk about your, who you are, when you ride it. It's like, it's your personality, and that's what I think is like, it's fun. Like, I love my Boost, and lately I've been riding a lot of Remis, and it's just fun. It's a different ride, it is like riding a Land Rover Mini, and the way people look at you and the way people approach you. It's like you ride a Remi, you get a Mini Cooper smile. You ride a Land Rover, you have a Land Rover conversation, You know what I mean? And it's kind of
so utility is basically staying in the middle of the triangle, appeasing everyone, but having your own personality. So like it's like perpendicular kind of. I get it.
It's negotiated. It must ride good. It must look good. It must do cargo. But some, of course, let's just say an eJoy maybe is more negotiated on a better looks and a little less on cargo. But ultimately you want to hit as much as you can of all of these three components. And that's what I think some of our competitors, they You know, I always say if you have a chart, you know, so some bikes can load more, you know, like if you have one of the real big cargo bikes, of course, their load number is higher than ours, you know, but at the end, you know, but maybe their practicality numbers lower.
Yeah, totally. You know? Like, you know, you couldn't take an Urban Arrow tender into the forest on a family picnic, but you could, you know.
So
you could
I don't know if you remember the little, I don't have it here. It's somebody in Switzerland, they made a cargo bike top trumps, you know.
I'd love to get my hands on that.
You have to ask Samuel from Switzerland. It's funnier than hell. So I'm like, well, who are we going to be in there? You know, I was thinking like, what can we, if you get that card, are you going to be bummed or are you going to win? What can you win on? You know? So, and I think without looking at, but I looked through it, you know, and of course this one can load super much, and this one is tiny, and this one, you know, they all have something, but I think it almost felt like, I think we did have the lowest weight for our bike with the highest load.
Yeah.
It is a winning card, even in that deck.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe that's a good analogy to understand, you know,
I like it.
And I'm like, well, who are we in this deck? I don't want to be participating because I don't want to be the card that, because, oh shit, I got that card, you know, like, you know, there's always one of those. You remember, right?
Never. Yeah, no, I like it. In fact, it's just inspired me. I really want to do a top trumps for our showroom now of all our bikes. So in closing, Bosch, obviously it's like 90% of the bikes we sell are Bosch. The only bikes we don't sell are Bosch that use their own technology, like Ghost Cycle. I mean, why, just if you can sum it up, why exclusively Bosch? I mean, we love it, but what would be your answer for that?
I think Bosch is the best.
Yeah.
Very simple. I think they're the best. They have the longest longevity. You know, they're the only ones URL rated. You know, completely. They're the only ones that make all their components themselves, including batteries and everything. You know, the other ones, they may buy the controller, they may buy a battery. They even
not married, synchronized perfectly.
They put things together. Bosch is the only one that puts it all together. And last night I was, you know, meeting up with some friends that I haven't seen for a long time, and they say, what e-bike should I buy? You know, and I just genuinely say, look, you should pick whatever you want, but make sure it's Bosch.
Yeah.
You know? And so for me, I think it kind of completes it in the way, the sensitivity when you ride it, and how it can read your mind. You know, it's a mind reading system it's very magical. You know, and I always call it superpowers. You know, and you sit on it.
Exactly. It makes you feel like a superhuman. Yeah.
Superhuman, and it's not jerky, right? You sit there, and some of these bikes, you know, they kind of, you know, they just on off, you know, and this bike
connected. Like you feel like a professional horse rider that's been riding horses all their lives. It's part of you, you know. Like, it's just so cool. I just don't know how it can get much better. But I mean, it doesn't really need to get better. You know, already. I mean, most people don't really want to sit on a bike, especially with the double battery on the closed frame version of this. I mean, that's like 50 miles in turbo, 120 miles in eco. I mean, you just don't really want to do more than that on a bike in a day anyway.
So, well, people always ask me about the range. I said, well, how far can your butt go on the seat, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and they go, well, I don't know. It's like, well, range probably higher than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Simple.
They always say, how far can the bike go? I said, well, how far can you go?
That's it.
How far can your butt go?
Yeah.
You know? So, but, you know, they always ask me how much they weigh, and I say, well, how much does your car weigh? And I'm like, they go, well, I don't know. I said, well, why would you care? You know, it's all about the experience that you have when you push down on your gas.
That's a good one.
You know, and they say, well, unless you have to carry it up, you know, 2 flights of stairs.
You got to carry your car upstairs. Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter. It's the experience. When you ride it will weigh nothing.
Yeah.
You know, just like your car. It's like, how much does your car weigh? Well, I don't know. I said, well, why don't you look it up? Is it important to you?
Love it. So look, thanks so much, man. And great to see you again. And until next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thanks for all your help and your support and your great job in the UK. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much, man. And you too.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay. Bye.
I mean, what a dude. I mean, he is so inspiring. Lewis actually listened into the call.
Yeah, it's a super passionate. Like, I can't wait to share that with the rest of the team here. Just Yeah.
Yeah, it was really magical. I think we're kind of buzzing now. If you haven't seen Lewis before on some of our other YouTube videos, this is Lewis. He's the showroom manager and Benno specialist. He is going to be able to not just answer any question, but inform you with some of the amazing, creative, different ways of using these bikes, which is what is so empowering and inspiring about them. Is like, you see the bike, you see roughly what it can do, but actually it can do way more and will take you on the most epic journeys, and you will end up being sucked in by nature into amazing missions, doing all sorts of things that you never would have thought you would do. So let's get into the bikes. So the two bikes we're stocking are...
So we've got the RemiDemi, and then we've got the Boosty. The Boosty, obviously this is a step-through one. We have got it in the closed frame, which is you can get in a dual battery, 1000 watt configuration as well. But yeah, I think let's start by looking at the RemiDemi.
Yeah, so the RemiDemi is the Mini Cooper, and basically it's like a cult, small, kind of sporty vehicle that is still compact carrying, that can do kind of multi-purpose missions, and it's a steel frame.
Yeah, steel frame. So again, like most of our bikes here, you've got the Bosch running system. So the RemiDemi, you've got the performance line motor and a 400 watt battery as standard.
Gen 3, yeah. So the latest one you can get that has the bigger chainring, so isn't internally geared. So you get a very smooth ride, and you can push past the 25 kilometers, 15.5 really easily with joy and ease, and it's just an absolute delight to ride. I rode it for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and it is such a nice riding position, feels so firm on the road, and then you tend to run these tires like a little bit softer than most people normally would, and it gives you loads of suspension. You can go on and off curbs because it is a fat tire. It's a fat bike essentially, fat tire bike. But these are kind of like a motorcycle tire as well. So mega strong. It'd be almost impossible to get a flat tire. And there's a rack time rear rack. And if you're not familiar with rack time, check it out on our website. But there are so many different cool ways of carrying things, from wooden kind of like wine box style to traditional baskets to panniers to special bags that you can put like high-end cameras in, wallets. It's really clever.
And the other thing with the rear rack, Benno have actually brought out some new accessories for this year. So you're going to have a seat pad. You've got sort of little bars so you can carry a child, even probably a light adult. Yeah. You can carry up to 80 kg on the rear of it. So it's really exciting to see what new accessories they're bringing out further to that call. But I think why it's so popular, obviously, you've got the low step as well. Super versatile, super easy. Can fit anyone from, I think it's 5'2" up to 6'3", this bike. Again, super upright riding position, so perfect for London, but if you're going further afield as well.
Do you know what the weight carrying is for the front as well?
So for the front, for the smaller rack, which is the mini tray, it is 15 kg. Yeah. But you can also fit the wider tray, which we've got on demonstration on the Boost, which can take up to 20 kg.
So that's one of the really cool things about Benno as well, is the different evolutions of bikes. So we're on evolution 4 of the Boost. I think we're on Evo 1 of the RemiDemi at the moment. But if they do kind of in 2 years' time change it, then you can use basically every single component can fit on every different bike. Obviously, apart from the rear rack on the Boost because it's a long tail, but the front racks will be able to fit. Like when they bring out new stuff in the future, you don't need to buy a new bike. You can just put the new accessories on. And that's one of the things with these bikes, is like you develop after purchase, you develop that relationship with your bike, and you can keep it and you can change it. You can adapt it to your lifestyle. And say you have a kid, you can put a baby seat on. On this one, you can say you have a second kid, you can put. It's just really clever the way it's all thought out. And that's where Benno is this like kind of creative genius with huge amounts of experience in the industry, and just fully committed to this segment, and that's why we are so impressed and have chosen to stock the bike.
Yeah, and just touching, you mentioned baby seats. They are both compatible with the Maxis, which is a hugely popular option.
Yeah.
I think, what is it, about 8 months you can get?
Yeah, as soon as they can hold their heads. So, you know, some kids maybe 6 months, and then up to, I mean, realistically, once they're past about 3 or 4, they want to be in their own.
Put them on the seat pad.
Yeah, but unless they're particularly naughty, like my little boy Wolf, then maybe you keep them in there for a little bit longer. But then, yeah, going to the seat pad with the pegs and the little bars, like kind of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very, very comfy saddles, all designed by Benno. You know, that's some stuff is like from open tooling. So, for example, like the stands are open tooling because there's just really good existing stuff on the market. But with the racks and most of the other accessories, tires on this one, but not yet on this one. He's just designed everything. I mean, it is really impressive what they've done. What about price? So obviously they're available on 0% and cycle to work schemes.
Yeah.
But
so price. So for the RemiDemi, so the base price is 3,399. So colours we stock. So obviously we've got the olive green here. We've got the turmeric yellow. And there are other colours available, which we can always order in for you.
And that's going back to the other, there's 2 more models as well, the Joy and the Scout.
Yeah.
Now we don't stock them, but we can special order them for you. I mean, we will be carrying, well, we are already carrying a decent amount of stock in both of these models. And we have got pre-orders for many more to come. So we should always have them in stock for like kind of immediate purchase or immediate delivery. And but yeah, with the others, the Joy and the Scout, we're not going to stock them yet, but maybe in a year's time, we might be adding them. Yeah.
But I think let's talk about the Boosty. I think this one is going to be a really exciting bike for us, just really with what you can do on the rear of this bike.
Yeah.
So obviously, as I said, you can fit 2 Maxi seats in it. Benno have got a system called the High Rail. So it's essentially sort of like a little enclosure for the kids to hold on to.
Yeah.
So added security. So the one we are stocking, so it's a Benno Boost. Obviously this is a step through. We are stocking the CX motor version.
Yeah.
They do make it in a performance line, but again, that would be something with
special order. Yeah.
But if you're carrying 2 kids, you want the CX motor, in my opinion.
And the Shimano Dior 10-speed cassette is all you really need. Give you loads of range for steep hills. That performance CX motor, literally there is not a hill in London that it couldn't get up with 2 kids on the back and you driving. It is really, I mean, they can tow on big cargo bikes that we sell, 250 kg weight limit on the bike, and then another trailer. I mean, it's like nearly half a ton that thing can move. So don't worry if you're concerned about getting up a steep hill with a bit of cargo. New alley fork, which is on the Evolution 4, and it just looks like really slick. I mean, the build quality is amazing. The accessories are awesome. You've got supernova lights. You've got
again the sturdiness of the aluminium mudguards.
Massive point. And Benno is majorly OCD about his the look of the wheels with the mudguards, and it's so important because when these bikes get kind of bashed around a little bit, you don't want the mudguards like getting all kind of skew whiff and looking all weird. So it really is, for me, I'm quite into the OCD and aesthetically pleasing kind of designs, and it really is that. But yeah, what else?
So obviously dual kickstand, so if you are carrying kids, we can add that for both of these bikes. Again, that's a product made by Benno, just to add rigidity. But I mean, it's not just for families, this bike. It is for couriers, for people. You can get some really nice panniers, some trunk bags for both the front rack and the rear. But yeah, terms of price, so the CX model 4799, again colours, so this is the aqua, we're stocking it in the grey, And then in the closed frame, we've got the olive green again, but we can order other colours if you have a particular preference.
Yeah, I mean, one of the kind of like USPs about this bike as well is the 24-inch wheels. Basically, what that does is 20 isn't quite big enough, basically, for going over some aggressive curbs, going off into the forest. So they put the 24, but because they're like almost a fat tire, they're a 2.6-inch tire. It actually is kind of like 25.5. And in the chat with Benno on the Zoom call, if you want to listen to that in full length, you'll hear those kind of things and why he did it. And it makes so much sense because it keeps your center of gravity lower than having 27.5 or 26-inch wheels, but it also allows you to keep the rigidity of the bike. So that distance there is not compromising the flex of the frame too much, still giving you a really sturdy ride, and also not being too long that you can't kind of navigate it into a lift or into a bike park or
storage.
Yeah, so it's a really clever design as a compact cargo bike that can do anything. Again, going back to that synergy of the Land Rover Defender, it really is that, and it's just such a clever design. But I actually don't know the answer to this. So how many Bennos are produced each year at the moment?
So in the year just gone, so 2020 to 2021, they produced 15,000 Bennos, 50% of which is the Boost, 23% of the RemiDemi. So
that's interesting actually. That's good. I mean, obviously those are 15,000 e-bikes with Bosch technology. Just to emphasise, they only use that technology, and you can hear Benno's comments about his confidence in Bosch, and I definitely share that confidence. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what their growth will be like over the next few years, because it's a fairly new company. Not many people have heard of it yet. So I think they'll go through decent growth.
In 5 years' time when we're reviewing the newer models to see what their numbers are.
Exactly, but I mean, I don't think that's his real passion is to like sell as many as possible. It's about like that's why these brands are so magical, and it's similar with Moustache and Go Cycle and Reese and Muller. Is like they're not out there just to rinse it to the max and sell bikes and please boards of flipping venture capitalists. It's about creating the most amazing brand out there that is going to last for generations, and that's what we love about our brand as well as the brands we carry, and that's why we keep it fully charged.
Well, that's